Well, hello and welcome to episode 15 of the Bomb City Podcast. If this is your first time joining us, thank you. And if you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back. Man, this this episode barely happened, and off the bat, I got to thank Billy Parker for coming through and saving the day on this one. Man, thank you, Billy, so much for being my co-host here. My guests on this episode are Billy Parker and Freddie Nandin of Fabulous Freddie's Paint out in Arizona. Billy and Freddie are both members of my car club, Los Boulevardos, and this episode's a pretty Boulevardos heavy episode. We talk about Brian Morris's Cadillac, painting with E-Dog, from E-Dog Customs, and Alan Walsh's Pontiac, Robert's 68 Impala Flygirl. We talk about a whole bunch of club cars. So since this is my first remote interview, I will also apologize in advance for the audio quality. It comes in and out. Stick with it. It's a good one. I had a really good time recording it, and I hope you guys like listening to it. This episode is kind of a dream come true as a host. These are the kind of conversations I dreamed about recording for this podcast when I first started it. So thanks, Freddie, and thanks, Billy, so much. And thank you to Los Boulevardos Car Club for just attracting the most awesome people in the world. Anyways, I'll pick up this at the end. Sorry this one's coming out to you guys a little bit late. Without further ado, episode 15 of the Bomb City Podcast, Fabulous Freddie. Thank you so much for listening. All right, that one's recording. Billy. Yo. What's up, man? I think we're almost up and running completely.
Sweet.
Freddie's
here too. You to say hello. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
All right, man. Thank you so much. Sorry about all the hassle. I thought this was gonna be a lot easier than it was.
Yeah. Well, we build cars, not computers.
Right? Man, thank you guys so much. This was a huge pain in the ass to get going, but I always like to start them off with going through how you got into cars and how you got into building cars out in Arizona. But I think before we start that, Freddie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Freddie Nandin, Fabulous Freddie's Custom Paint, member of Los Boulevardos Car Club.
Right on. And Billy, you can go ahead and speak up too.
My name is Billy Parker, also a member of Los Boulevardos Car Club, Arizona.
Right on. Hey, thanks for helping out with setting all this stuff up today.
You bet.
So Freddie, God, this feels fucking weird interviewing friends, doesn't it?
Yes.
So how'd you get started building cars?
Well, it all started a long time ago when I was young with my mom and dad, obviously, having old custom cars, hot rods, you name it, they had it when I was growing up. They even had a GTO station wagon at one point in time. And a lot of people don't even think those exist, but they do. Learned how to drive in a 53 Chevy pickup when I was like 4 years old. It was the first time I ever sat in a driver's seat and, held the steering wheel, and, I've pretty much hooked since then.
Have you been pretty much in the same place?
I've been in Arizona all my life, yeah. I've traveled back and forth to Nevada for a little while. I've been flown out to several states to paint cars and do odds and end work, Mainly when shops couldn't finish a car, I would go in and finish it up for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like that's the way a lot of shops get started. People have always been kind of weird about it too, because when you finish someone else's project, it's like, whose name do you put on it at the end of it, right?
Well, that's a funny story. I've worked on several cars that I've never gotten the props for finishing the cars. They always gave it to the guy who screwed them, and I never got anything. There's several magazine cars out there that I've done that I had no love on. And it's kind of depressing at times, but everybody who knows, oh yeah, he finished that car, not that shop, so.
Yeah. It's sort of always been like that too. I mean, like the guys swinging hammers in the back of Barris's shops never got a bunch of recognition, or the people that fixed the stuff that rolled out of there, like, I don't know.
Oh, for sure. I know a lot of guys that work at a lot of high-end shops that you'll never know their name. It's the guy who runs it. Like every time I build a car, anybody who helps me, I try to give them love just because I know how it feels, and it's really depressing. And it's like, oh man, I spent a lot of time over there. I spent time away from my family, and I don't even get a, hey, thanks, guy. Nothing. Just a little bit of appreciation goes a long way. And, everybody I've worked with, I tell them, oh, I'll mention you, I'll mention you, I'll mention you. Every time we did anything for the club or anything, anybody who ever helped, I always, no, I couldn't have done it without these guys. Like Billy came and helped sand on Brian Morris's Cadillac. Alan did, Chris did, everybody in Arizona was there working on these cars. Nick did a lot of the welding. John Denawa, who's no longer with us, he did a lot of work for us too on that car. And I put it out there that no, it's not just me, it's everybody else. So these guys deserve the credit. They put the time in, so I feel they should have the credit. Even the small guys doing wet sanding or taping or buffing or whatever. The
Definitely.
small guy don't get the love that they deserve. At the end of the day, they're the ones who really put out the most work.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess one of the cool things about social media is that I think more people, like, other than the big name, are also starting to get credit too these days. Like, I see a lot of people on Instagram who are just a painter or a body man that have sort of picked up their own following, which is really cool to see too. But one of the cars you brought up that I think a lot of people will be familiar with, that a lot of guys worked on, was Brian's Cadillac. Do you want to tell me how that came together?
Brian had mentioned something at Santa Maria a while back, and he wanted to do a collaboration with E-Dog. I was wondering, hey, can we, build the car at your shop and have E-Dog come out and do some cobwebbing on the roof and pearl it and everything? And I was down. He's a fellow club brother as well, so why not? Let's do it. Let's build this car and keep it in the club, and we'll all have fun doing it. And it was a great time having everybody come out here from Chicago, California.
Yeah. For people who don't know, Brian Morris he's on Instagram. He's like the crazy talented graphic, what do you say, illustrator, graphic designer?
Yeah, I guess we'd call him that.
Who's a member of our car club from Chicago. And E-Dog, I should I'll tag him in this thing instead of trying to have someone write it down. He's from Southern California. He's also another really talented artist what was it like having all those people in the same room working towards the same goal?
In the beginning, it was filling everybody out. Everybody had their own niche of how they did things. And, you just gotta let everybody do what they want to do, because just because my way works for me doesn't mean it works for E-Dog or Brian or anybody else. But in the end, we all worked together really, really good, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. I think it made us all tighter as a far distance chapters go. We learned a lot about each other during those couple of weeks that we were together building that car. Brian Morris helped out wet sanding. A lot of customers don't come and do work on their car. A lot of guys won't allow it either, but at the same time, this was, hey, we're going to do this as a club venture. Let's have everybody in the club work on it, so let's do it. And we did. And I think the end result was pretty amazing myself.
Yeah, definitely.
At the time, I was actually a prospect in the club, so it was pretty cool to get to get my hands on a club car and help out, and just kind of see what the whole thing was about. And it definitely kind of just solidified my wanting to be a part of the whole thing, and it was an awesome experience for me at the time, for sure.
Did you guys have a totally clear vision before you guys all got in one room? Did you pretty much know?
Yeah, I would say so. He knew what he wanted. He was pretty detailed with his rendering of how he wanted the car to look. I can't remember who it was, but somebody put a side-by-side photo of his rendering with the car itself, and it pretty much nailed it. No one didn't know what to expect that didn't see the rendering. So everybody who had seen the rendering knew what to look for. Yeah. And I think we pretty much hit the nail on the head with it. We had a couple of issues with it here and there. Bought a parts car. I think it came out of New Mexico, and some of the parts we needed for it, they were broken as well, and we had to fabricate some things that just couldn't be repaired off that car. The gas door springs broke on it, and we just couldn't figure out where to get them. We try. I don't even know if they've been replaced to this day. Tell you the truth, but we made it work. We did things to make it work so it didn't look terrible. But yeah, I'd say everybody knew what to do and how it was going to look.
That's cool. Right? Stuff like that can go like a million different ways, and it's really cool that it worked out so great.
Right. Well, here's the other crazy thing a lot of people don't know it was E-Dog's first attempt at spraying a pearl.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he had never sprayed a full-bodied car like that in a pearl before in his life. So, I told him, I said, well, if, you need any help, I could walk you through it. But he went in and handled his business and killed it like a champ.
Awesome.
Came out and, he was pretty happy with it.
So it's is the whole thing in a pearl? Is just top to bottom? Or
Yes, the roof's done in a pearl. Everything has pearl all over it.
Awesome.
It has pearl fades along the cove of the sides, the lines on the hood, the lines on the deck lid. I believe at the top of the fins as well, too.
It all works together really, really neatly. Like if you guys haven't seen Brian's car, I'll post a picture on the show notes thing that I do on the blog. But it's a mild custom, but the way they did these fades really, really accentuates all of the body lines, so it looks kind of wild, even though it's relatively tame.
Right.
Was that sort of what you guys were going for with the fades?
I believe that's what he wanted, yes.
It worked out great.
Thank you.
So, and there was another story with the club too, with a lot of people coming together and a lot of ingenuity. You want to tell us about the time you lost to Supreme?
Yeah, so I went to cruise to the lake. I can't remember the year now. Hey, we had drove out there, stayed at a hotel. We were going to one of our other members' houses, Tony, and I heard a little clicking in the back, and I thought, well, maybe one of my brake shoes in the back had come off.
Yeah.
Well, we get to Tony's house. I had ended up breaking an alternator bracket.
Jeez.
So I changed that real fast so we can get to this show. We ended up meeting a couple people at this gas station, and from there we decided to get on I believe it's the 60 freeway. I can't remember, but it's in Montebello. And AJ, another member, had just taken off like a bat out of hell, and I got a brand new 350 and 700 R4. I can catch them. I take off. I start hauling ass, and then next thing I know, I just hear this crack, and my axle had actually sheared in half, and it took the tire underneath the car, sent me through 5 lanes of traffic.
Oh my God.
Another member, Chris Connor, was with me, and we're both like yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and says, "Hey man, you got this?" I said, "Yeah, I got this. I got this. We're not going to hit the wall. We're going straight for the median that divides the traffic."
Jesus.
In the middle. And I ended up swinging it around the other way where E-Dog, again, was coming up. And I narrowly missed him. And I did that, I think, 3 times through the traffic. And then the wheel must have caught in a reflector or something and pulled out of the car, which actually helped me out because it sent me straight. And the wheel's bouncing, and it missed E-Dog's T-Bird, the green T-Bird at the time he had. And a guy had swung around E-Dog, and it bashed in his front end. Just annihilated the front end of this car. It was a Toyota Corolla, like an 86 piece of shit. Could I say shit? Okay. So, I get it over to the side of the road, and once we're there, I'm like, oh my God, we made it. And Chris is like, oh, man, thanks for saving me, thanks for not killing me. And somebody's yelling, man, your car's on fire.
Jesus.
So we get out. We're trying to put this fire out. Well, when we open the ice chest to get some water, it's full of beer. So we don't even have any water to put this fire out, and I'm throwing all this beer in the back of the car. And finally, I get to a Gatorade or a water or something, and I throw it at Chris, and Chris pours it onto the fire and gets the fire out. Alan, another club member, runs up with the fire extinguisher. We're like, we got it, we're good. And somebody comes up with my wheel. I guess it had went a couple feet back, or like 50 feet back, and got the wheel. And we were just sitting there looking at the damage. I mean, the axle just straight sheared off. What had happened is I had taken it and gotten a wheel bearing put on. And when they put the wheel bearing on, they nicked the axle. And since you're not supposed to really nick that axle, it cracked it, split it right in half. Jesus. So it was just a matter of time before that happened. And the other crazy story about this is on our way to California, coming into Tonopah, an older Porsche rolled up on me, and we were probably doing 80, 90, and the guys in the car were, harassing me, saying, this guy's going to beat you, and next thing I know, we're flying down the 10, coming up to Tonopah, or not Tonopah, Quartzsite, and we're flying. We're probably easily doing 120, 125 down the 10, wow. Racing, stupid. And, we're just lucky it didn't happen then, because we'd probably be dead right now,
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
We end up getting a tow truck and getting it towed to another member, Tony's house, where we left the car for the day. We went and enjoyed the show. Everybody there, corralled and found me a rear end. We jacked up the car, and the next day, actually, the Sunday, jacked up the car, pulled the rear end out in like 40 minutes, and had a new one in a couple of hours, and we drove it home.
Man, that's
again,
something.
Everybody from Arizona, tag teamed it, and we got it on the road. E-Dog gave me a couple of wheels to use, because the wheel had actually, it didn't bend. I thought it bent, but it actually bent the drum. So the wheels E-Dog had given me were standards, and I run 14.7 reversed, and driving down the freeway was crazy because those wheels were so sunk in the ass end that it would get squirrely on me. So I had to stop and see if I can get another tire or try to buy some wheels or something. And something told me, just check and see if this wheel's straight. Just get a tire put on it and have it balanced and see what it balances out at. Well, it balanced out at like 0.25, so it was still good. It wasn't even bent. So I put it back on, put my other wheel on, and we made it to Arizona. We made it 2 miles into Arizona, and then the pump shaft in my transmission went out, and I had to have it towed home because that was something I couldn't tackle on the side of the road, unfortunately.
Wow. That's a hell of a weekend.
But you know what? It was a good time. It was a really good time. We had prospected a friend of ours, Chris, and just a lot of people came together on that. Guys from other clubs. I can't remember the name of the clubs, but one of the guys is actually one of the ones who had found me the rear end, and I can't thank him enough to this day, for getting me home, he actually drove me over to the guy's house to pick up the rear end in his own personal truck. So, those guys out there, man, they got something good going on.
That's awesome. It's weird how stuff like that works out. Like, I guess car guys, even if they're not like into the same kind of cars, they look out for each other. Like Josie and I had this crazy story. We were driving home one night in her 57 back when it used to be Rainbow Metal Flake. It's Rainbow Metal Flake now, but it was a different color of Metal Flake.
Silverish one, right?
Yeah. So we were coming back from that show up here, Midnight Mass, which gets out. It goes past midnight. I think it was 2 or 3 in the morning, and we're going down the freeway, and we see our buddy Tom broken down on the side of the road, like from the freeway. So we circled back to go find him. He had this gold-roofed, green-bodied 1960 Cadillac.
Oh, okay.
You remember that car? It was on Supremes, and Anyways, so he was broken down there. His alternator went out, and like since his car was static dropped, when the tow trucks showed up, they wouldn't pick him up. Like they were too afraid to damage the car, so no one would touch it. But we found this like methed out tow truck driver at like 4 in the morning, and this was like we were out in this town Stockton, which is sort of
I know Stockton.
it's pretty far from home.
Right.
And it can be pretty sketchy out there by the jail or the prison or whatever they have out there. And there's like wild dogs in the background that are like howling at the moon. And this guy was like, all right, I won't tow it, but I got a Camaro in my garage. You could borrow my alternator. Just swap me the one so I could have the core. Like this tow truck guy, like he had absolutely no reason to go out on a limb. So we hopped in my wife's car, drove to this guy's house, like pulled the alternator out of this guy's Camaro, like drove it back to my friend Tom, and we got home by sunrise. It's it's cool how people that are into cars watch out for each other.
Right. Yeah, that happens a lot out here. One day we were on a cruise called Cruise on Central out here.
Sorry, is that in Phoenix?
Yes, in Phoenix. Everybody's just cruising. I'm going to say, what, Billy, a good 8 miles of Central?
Yeah.
It's 2 times a year, but it's not really well, I guess it's mainly a show, but we don't go to the show. We just go cruise.
All right.
And this guy, 54 Chevy, bagged, blew a line, and he's blocking traffic, and there is traffic for miles. I mean, it took me like a half an hour to get to him. And, hey, man, what's the problem? Well, I blew a line, and I don't have any fittings. I don't have nothing. I'm like, well, I'm sure we can figure something out. So me and Chris, another member from Arizona here, just put our heads together and figured something out. We ended up taking the old fitting that had melted and taking a piece and just kind of melting the hose back to the plastic fittings and getting it to work to where it didn't hold air or held air enough to just get it off the street. And that's all we did. Wow. So he could build enough air to lift it up and then park it. And it got traffic moving again. There's a lot of people cussing at us and everything because, this guy's broken down. But I knew him from a friend of mine, and that was it. I maybe said hi to him a couple of times, but, yeah. It's amazing what people will do. People's helped me, so I figured why not help this guy?
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think you're boring, Billy. He's falling asleep.
Shut up.
Yeah, Billy, what's up, man?
Hey. Yo.
Long day of work?
No, I actually had the day off.
What's going on?
Man, I haven't even been to sleep yet since I got off work.
I've been.
Jesus, you work swing shift?
I work graveyards.
Damn.
Yeah, I got off work at 8 o'clock this morning and started drinking at 1, and now we're here.
Yeah. Technical difficulties, if they had prolonged any further, this could have been like a really sloppy podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sloppier podcast.
Right?
Nah, that's... Damn, thanks for sticking it out.
No problem.
So, talking about your shop and the club and people getting together, Robert's car is another great car like that. You want to tell me about that one?
A previous member had brought him down, and we met on Cruise on Central, as a matter of fact. And they were hanging out, and the guy's like, man, I really like to get my car painted. I've met this guy a total of 2 hours maybe. And, just talking to him about some stuff he wants to do and, like the ideas we had. He wanted to do some scallops and some other things to it. And, I said, yeah, but you know what, man? I think just a simple pearl job on it. Keep it clean and classy. This car's already clean and classy. Let's just keep it like that. And, he wanted some scroll work pinstriped on it. And I said, yeah, that's something you could do later, or we could do it and clear over it, whatever. But I mean, this car is just too clean to put patterns all over it and put some scallops on it. I wouldn't even say scallops. I would say just highlights around the roof lines and, panels, but in a scallop sense. I don't even know how to explain it. You'd have to see how we did it. We taped it off a couple of times. We came up with a couple of good ideas, but it just didn't sit with us. It was like, this is too much for the car for how clean the car is. And when it came down to picking the color, it was like, okay, well, we can work with this in pearls and highlight the cell panels, highlight the curvature of the crown on the quarter panels and fenders because it has two separate lines. So, when it came time to spray it, I just dusted the pearl all over the whole car. A lot of people think it looks like flake, but it's not. It's all House of Color Ice pearl. And then highlighted the edges of the fenders, and that's it. And it just kept it clean and simple. But I also shaved all the trim along the sides, all the marker lights, all the emblems off the hood, trunk, fenders, header panel. The car had also been bashed in on the right quarter panel that a lot of people don't know, and it was pushed in about 6 inches, and I had to pull all that out.
Wow.
Used my frame machine to pull it as much as I could, and then hammered and dollied the rest of it out until I only had like even an 1/8 inch thick of filler on it. I had no choice because it was so beat up, and he didn't want to replace the quarter at the time, so we just did the best we could with what we had. And he had flown out a couple of times and helped me work on the car. I don't have a problem with letting people help me work on their car. That way they can see what's really going on with it. And I built a stronger relationship with a lot of the people, and he's become a really good friend and now a club member, just from him leaving the car with me after a couple of hours of knowing him.
Yeah, that says something.
He wanted to get it painted, and he just couldn't find anybody, I guess, in Denver. I don't know, or he just liked what I did and felt comfortable. I don't know. So we just made an agreement. The first night I met him, we made an agreement, and he drove the car to my shop, and they stayed at my house, and I drove them to the airport on Sunday, and they flew out. They didn't even have plane tickets. They were going to drive back out to Denver in the morning, on Sunday.
Huh.
So on Saturday night, we went to Billy's house after the cruise on Central, hung out. Did we barbecue or not?
Mexican food.
Yeah, we had Mexican food.
Tacos and Modelo's, I believe.
That's right. Tacos and Modelo's.
Some carne asada.
Fuck Frank.
That's a long story.
Yeah.
And,
that's another podcast.
and so we had tacos and Modelo's, and drove to my shop afterwards. Well, not after drinking. We had sober drivers, of course. Drove to my shop. We worked out a deal, and he left the car, and the rest is history, as they say. And it's coming out in it is out in Lowrider magazine right now.
Right now?
Yeah,
wow,
now.
That's awesome. That's like a huge deal.
Yeah. It's hard to get into Lowrider magazine with all the cars out there, especially with his traditional style of lowrider. I mean, it's frowned upon almost in some areas, but the older generation are like, no, that's the way it was, man. That's how it was in the 60s and 70s. That's a real lowrider right there. Not with the 100-spoke Daytons on it. And I've had the same compliment with my car, where I've had members of other clubs here in Arizona bring their young guys over and say, you see this car here? Oh, yeah, man, I like that car, but I'd put Daytons on it. And they're like, no, you're getting it messed up because this is how it was back in the day.
Right.
And, you see these guys walking around with the older guys and them giving them a history lesson, and them to use our cars feels great. Feels good. And then when they come up and congratulate you and say, nice job on a well-built car, it's awesome.
Billy, you still awake?
I'm here, bud. I was telling Freddie I'm like his roadie. I just get the equipment ready and you do your thing. So, Freddie, what was the first car you ever did that kind of inspired that passion for you as a painter that you were like, wow, I want to do more of this?
That's rough. That's really rough. I'd have to say mine and my dad's 57 Cameo after it was wrecked. got a new fiberglass bedside for it, and we tore the whole truck apart and started working on it and wet sanding it. And unfortunately, I didn't get to paint it. He ended up selling the truck before it was done. So, but just getting it to the point where it was a nice car again, and then seeing it gone was like, I need to finish something. And then I just started, hey man, let me work on your car. Hey, let me do this. Let me try this with friends. And they did. They were dumb enough, but I thank them. I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning, as usual. But I guess I was good enough that when I went to a trade school, they graduated me a couple months early and told me I had no use of being there, that I should go out in the real world and make money.
The trade school in auto body?
Yes.
Over there in Arizona?
Yes. Yeah, Maricopa Skills Center.
For people that are trying to get into the trade, would you recommend going to a trade school or,
Yes, definitely.
or the old-fashioned route?
I ended up going into production straight out of there. And I worked production predominantly for about 10 years. And I hired everybody out of trade school.
Huh.
I wouldn't hire people off the street. Because the reason why I did that is because I got my chance that way. And I started off as a buffer. Oh well, I can't hire you as a painter. I don't know what you know. You don't even know how to tint and blend cars. So I started off as a buffer. I was really good at buffing, so it's like, okay, well, pay me $10 an hour to buff. I'll buff. I don't care. I just want to get in here and learn and do things. So that's what I did. And one day a painter called in sick, and I said, well, I can do this. I can get in there and paint. And I went in there and I ended up painting a few cars, and he was like, well, you want to do it a couple times a week until you're 100%, and then you can take one of the booths. We had 2 booths, so I ended up painting delaminated cars back in the 90s when they were delaminating all the GM cars. We'd strip them down and paint them. So I ended up doing that for a full-time gig for a while. And I loved the cars from my family. All traditional style lowriders and hot rods, and I wonder if I could do this, and I started doing it, and I started doing it to my cars, and then started doing it to friends' cars, and then next thing I know, here I am.
I didn't know your family was into traditional lowriders and hot rods and customs. What kind of cars did you grow up around?
My Theo, he actually has a 37 Chevy, and he still has it. I was supposed to paint it, but I don't remember what had happened, and I ended up couldn't paint it at the time, so he had somebody else paint it for him. But my aunt had a 62 Impala. We've had several cars through my mom and dad. My mom actually had a 69 official pace car Camaro SS that was a hardtop. There's only a few of those made. And my dad always had different cars. He was always wheeling and dealing and always just brought home different stuff. So I fell in love with all old cars. I didn't have a certain specific car like I do now. Like now I predominantly like 59 and 60 Chevys, and I have for the last last 15 years. It's just all I've wanted. I've had 64s, 62s, 63s, 61s, and I like the 59 60s, and they've just been in my blood for the last 15 years or so, I'd say. And ended up with the wagon, not a hardtop, and figured, well, I can make it cool as a hardtop, I guess. And I think I succeeded on that with some help from a lot of people. I've had a lot of help on that car too.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. We should talk about your car. We haven't really said much about it yet.
Well, I picked up that car in Carson City, Nevada. Well, actually, it was Gardnerville, Nevada, right outside of Carson City. We were at Hot August Nights, and we were in a 61 Impala SS 409, and I was like, man, I'd love to find a 60 hardtop. but just I couldn't find nothing in my price range. So we're driving home from Hot August Nights one day in this car, and we pulled up, and this guy has the front end sticking out, and I couldn't see the back end. I'm like, hey man, do you see that car? You see that car? Turn around and pull up, and I'm like, oh shit, it's a station wagon. Well, at the time I had a 91 Capri station wagon I had built, so I was like, you know what, I could build another wagon. It's a 60, who cares? Do it, So I couldn't strike a deal with the guy. He just didn't want to come off it. He wanted way too much money. So I gave my buddy some money to get it at an auction, and that didn't pan out either. So I'd flown up there probably 4 months or 3 months later, and we ended up striking a deal, and I took the car home. Me and him ended up bagging it in a day, and I drove it back and forth to Nevada for a year and a half.
Wow.
Put tons of miles on it. The car itself actually has a little under 900,000 miles on it right now.
Wow. That's nuts.
Yeah, and right now, as we speak, I'm changing all the bushings that are factory in the rear end from the old rear end that were left in there, like the banana bone or whatever you want to call it, the top. What the hell's that thing called? The top control arm and the bottom control arms. All the bushings are wasted. They're so wasted that the center went through the bushing itself.
Wow.
That the sleeve actually wore through the bushing itself.
Yeah, it's about time to replace that.
Mm-hmm. And then a friend of mine who was a notorious lowrider painter, Bobby J., he was at my shop for a while, and I asked him, I was like, dude, man, I'm having a hard time, laying out the patterns on this car, and I need some help. And so I conversated with him for a while, and he's like, well, I can help you. I can do it. And I was like, well, I painted the whole car, and I'd like to do the patterns, but you know what? I think it's going to be better in your hands, because I'm not feeling it on my car. It's funny. I see things on other people's cars. I think, oh yeah, I'd like that on mine. And then I do it, and I don't like it. So I'm like, you know what? You tape it up. You do this. And me and my buddy Nick, which is also a member now, we taped it up. And he taped it up the same exact way, with an exception of a couple of spots where I couldn't figure it out. Well, he figured it out. He knew what to do. So I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's do this. Let's go ahead and do it. So he taped it up. He sprayed the fades and everything. I didn't even spray the fades on it, but I did all the flake and the color and the clear and everything else. And a lot of people don't realize that. But anybody who asks me, I tell them I didn't do the panels. All I did is the flake and the colors and the candy on the roof and everything else. So we had a small problem where the color and the panels actually, when I went to go clear it, had ran, because didn't pay attention to the can that said photochemically reactive.
Oof.
So what we had to do was wet sand the clear and go through, retape it all up, and then me and him both went through and touched up all the areas that had ran. So, I mean, if you look close, you'd probably be able to see them, but a lot of people never even notice them, But we also, me and Nick and a few other friends, we shaved the rain gutter at the roof, Frenched in 58 Del Rey tail lights, got 63 Buick Riviera seats, crate motor, 700 R4 transmission. The car's been through hell and back, I could tell you that. It's been all over the place. I used to drive it to work every day for 5 years, and I live about 101 miles round trip from my work easily. And I drove that every day on reversed wheels.
Most of the time on all four of them.
Mm-hmm.
Billy, how you feeling?
I'm good. I am fantastic.
So Sorry, I don't know why I keep picking on you.
Yeah, you're mean. I set up the microphone. I get everything going.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I even bought Freddie some Dos Equis to keep him, entertained.
So no Modelo's then?
No,
I don't drink Modelo.
Yeah, that's chooty shit, man. Like, we're better than that.
Right.
Now Tony's gonna be mad.
So what you been up to?
Not much, sir. Just working. Trying to get my stuff ready for Santa Maria. So, just gonna start buying some parts.
God, it's coming up quick.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna throw some 64 T-Bird buckets in there. So we're gonna do those up all cool.
Oh, cool.
And some other stuff. I'm gonna drive out. So.
Awesome. Yeah, right on. I just made a tattoo appointment on that Sunday with a friend of mine that moved to Pismo Beach.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Very cool. Which shop?
It's a shop in Pismo Beach called Tiger Rose.
Tiger Rose. I have not heard of
Yeah.
it. No.
It's not a big shop.
Gotcha.
That kid used to live on Treasure Island. I don't know if you've been to San Francisco before, but...
Yeah, a couple times.
Okay, so when you drive across the Bay Bridge, there's that island in the middle of it. He lived on that island. So,
wow.
There's nothing there. It's getting bigger, but...
And people still live there?
It's 5 minutes from San Francisco,
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. That's too much for me.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of work.
Well, you need a lot of things to work for you to get out of where you live,
Yeah.
Like you need both sides of the bridge to be open. That's crazy.
Yeah, can you imagine you can't leave your island today. Sorry.
Right.
All it takes is one accident, huh?
Yeah, seriously. How are you guys doing over there on time and everything? Are we still...
We're good.
I don't want to keep you from whatever else you got to do, so let me know if I'm
I
pushing
got 3
it.
beers left. I'm good.
Yeah. I was hoping we were going to talk about the threat of the word nostalgia on not only the scene, but in the general political environment we're in right now. That was a joke.
Oh, it's what? Poe's law. Have you heard of that?
No, I have not.
It's one of those theorems of the internet, like Rule 34. Have you guys heard that one? Okay, Rule 34, you guys can look that one up on your own. But Poe's law is nothing on the internet can be said so sarcastically that it can't be interpreted as just someone being stupid.
Makes sense.
Which is there's one person out there at least that's going to read something that you wrote sarcastically and think that you meant it genuinely. So yeah.
Oh, that happens all the time with me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a big computer texter. I'm more face-to-face type of person. So I'll say something jokingly around and people don't get it half the time. And it's like, no man, I was messing with you. I was fucking around, and don't take it so serious. Calm down.
Yeah, sometimes it could take a while to feel people out for if they're gonna get your sense of humor.
Yeah.
Right.
You're a hard read on the text message for sure. Mm-hmm. You need to use an italic font when you're using sarcasm.
I'll put it in parentheses.
Right. How is it 2017 and there's no italic font on a text message?
I don't know, man. Let's get into that.
What the fuck is an italic font?
It's like when it's slanted,
Oh, okay.
So you could tell,
Dude, I don't work with computers. You know what I use computers for? Mixed ratios. When I make paint. I can tell you ounces and grams and stuff like that, but I can't. No.
Nice.
Right on. I just remembered something that I wanted to talk about. I remember when Stoney's Cadillac was out at your shop, there was there some sort of ghost story with your shop? Yeah.
Blood drive. Yeah.
What the hell was that?
So, the shop we moved into was haunted, obviously. From
How do you know?
get-go. And
How could you tell?
huh?
How could you tell?
Well, you'd be at the shop all by yourself, and you'd be underneath the car doing something, You'd see feet walk by, legs.
What the fuck?
Yeah, crazy shit. You're just like, what the fuck was that? And you're like, oh, I'm the only motherfucker here. You know, and you get up and you look around, and the hair on the back of your neck would stand up. You know.
And you're pretty far out of the way, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I'm like 30 miles outside of town, roughly.
yeah. So that's crazy.
I think he wasn't wearing a mask, Nick.
No,
He was
Yeah.
wearing a respirator.
Okay, let me back up a little bit. So, you know, one day I was like, man, hey guys, I don't want to sound stupid or crazy or anything, but like, have you guys seen anything? And they're like, yeah, I just didn't want to say nothing. You know, it's like, what? What do you mean?
Man.
What have you seen? Like, I'll be working on a car and I'll see somebody walk by and nobody's there and I'm the only one there. It's happened to all of us several times.
That's fucking crazy.
So, like, I'm wet sanding Stoney's car to get back to that. And there's nothing in the shop, nothing at all. And there's no animals, nothing around it. We wet sanded the roof, walked away for a couple minutes. I think we went and smoked outside something. Come back in and there's a blood drop on the roof.
What the
We're
fuck?
like, where the hell did that come from? You know, it's like, I don't know. I wiped it off. It was gone. Finished wet sanding it, cleaned it. It was like, okay, it's gone. It's good. Well, you know, we were telling him the ghost stories. He's like, get the fuck out of here. You know, I don't believe you. Da, 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 da. Well, so the next day he comes in. He's like, dude, look at my hood. Look at my hood. And he put, like, Sarah Ray was here or something like that. Or Sarah Ray says hi. I can't remember exactly what he put. But he was fucking with us, you know. And he's like, I got you guys. And we're like, we thought he was serious because, you know, we've all seen some weird stuff. Like my stepson at the time was walking to go to the restroom, and he was like, who threw a bolt at me? Literally, nobody was in the shop.
What?
Nobody. And he had gotten hit with the bolt so hard that I heard it, and I was outside, you know, outside the bay door.
Wow.
But there's a wall, and there's two bay doors with a walkway in between the wall. So he walked through the walkway, and he was on the other side of the wall, and you could hear it hit his back and then hit the floor. But nobody was in there. We were all outside.
Jesus.
So it's like, well, how did that happen? You know, there's so many stories there. It's not even funny. And so again, fast forward to Stoney's car. I was doing the panels on it in the paint booth, which is on the outside of the shop. 40 feet away from
Like,
the bay, and you know, taped up the panels, painted them, everything. Come back and I look and I'm like, what is that? So if you look in his roof, you'll see two dots exactly where the blood drops were.
what?
Yes, they're still there.
That's fucking crazy.
They're still there, and you'll see it's like greens and blues, and then you'll see a little hint of like a purplish color. And I swear on my mama, I didn't put those there. I didn't do it. There's something there, and it's not from me.
That's crazy. Are you guys still at that shop?
I have since moved out. My buddy's still there. I've moved into a house with another shop. But I still frequently go over there and use the paint booth from time to time. I recently fell at work and had to have back surgery, and I haven't really successfully painted a car in over a year.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. I redid my roof not too long ago, and that about killed me.
Yeah.
I had a couple of issues that I didn't like, so I fixed them. And when I was doing that, I did it at my shop, and I'm telling you, I don't know if I have it in me much longer, but I'm gonna try as long as I can.
He's got it in him for a T-Bird, though.
That's actually, Billy, you want to tell us about your T-Bird?
Sure. It's a 1962 Ford Thunderbird Landau. It's all pretty much OG, numbers matching. So Originally came with red interior, black paint with a black top. I actually bought it off this kid that was living in California at the time that had got the car from trading a tractor for it and was going to drive it to school, but knew nothing about cars and he couldn't get it to start. So I ended up buying off this kid for like $3,500. Took it home, and the reason it didn't run is because there was the vacuum advance line was off of it. So literally, that's what I had to do to get the car running. Yeah, it's like all there, all original. Pretty much like early on, I lowered it myself by cutting the springs and then putting blocks in the back. And
he lowered it in his garage with like a foot on each side, by the way.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tight in there.
Yeah.
Used like an angle grinder to cut the springs and all that good stuff. Then I actually met Freddie and Alan over at like SoCal Speed Shop, and that was the first time I'd ever met anybody that was like into the same type of cars that I was. So, immediately became friends with those guys and started working on cars together, and we ended up bagging it together and doing exhausts, and like everything that we've done to that car has always been like as a group, like as a chapter. So it's been a pretty cool experience. I think like the rest of the guys kind of, even though they like to make fun of me for being the token Ford guy, it's a special car to everybody because we all kind of had our hands on it at one point in time.
That's cool.
You forgot the silver fade.
Yeah, one time when we were bagging it, Freddie decided that he was going to pull out a silver rattle can and just straight up put a fade on my fender. I freaked the fuck out. Got all over my chrome. But he buffed it out. He felt bad. I could tell. I don't think he'd ever seen me mad before, but I was pretty pissed.
He wasn't mad.
Yeah, I got over it real quick. But so
I just remembered that.
That's
funny.
It's been a reliable car though. I mean, it drove it all the way to Santa Maria and back, and a bunch of other places, Tucson.
With a hole in the firewall.
Yeah.
They had. It was kind of chilly out, so they had heat, which was awesome from the motor because of the hole in the firewall.
Yeah, but when we went through the desert with that
miserable.
hole in the firewall, it was so hot. It was like an oven, especially with all that like ribbed aluminum interior, just like microwaving me. But we've had some good times together.
You didn't think to like put a piece of tape over the whole?
Oh, I finally did. Finally, after like 2 or 3 years of enduring it, I figured out where it was coming from and taped it up. But yeah, it's been a pretty awesome car. I mean, you don't get that lucky when you buy something that often where it's like doesn't need a lot. It's on the original build on the engine and starts up every time I start it. So, it might be a Ford, but it's still pretty cool in my book.
If you ever watch any of Robert's videos with that car cruising, it just looks so sinister, just floating down the road.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it just flawlessly, effortlessly. Even though he doesn't have power steering at times, but it just looks so bitchin' cruising down the road.
Yeah, it was really cool when I came out for the
Rumble on the Boulevard.
Rumble on the Boulevard. That's what it was. Thank you. It was really cool when I came out to Rumble on the Boulevard, and I finally got to see all the Arizona cars in action. It was really neat. I don't know, like you see these cars online, but when you finally like get to be like in them and around them and like drive with them, it's a whole different thing. Like Billy's car, for example, like it looks awesome in pictures, but to see it floating along, I don't know, there's just something about it that's really really exciting that you can't capture on a picture.
Right.
I think for all of us like out here, especially since we don't all live very close to one another, it's like we build our cars to be driven. So it's like the best thing about going to a car show isn't sitting in the parking lot in a fold-up chair. It's the drive there. So we definitely try to emphasize that with everything we do.
Yeah, because you got to look. I'm 30, 40 miles away from anything.
Yeah.
At the drop of a hat. So I've already got an 80-mile round trip just to get to the freeway.
Yeah.
You know, and then if it's 20 miles inside of town, then I got another 20 miles. And when we meet up and we go cruising around, all we're doing is driving and having fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, you could really feel that when you're out there. It's different, outside of California where there's not, like 100 car shows in a weekend, and you just pick
Right.
which one you want to walk to. It's a whole different thing building a car where you need it to get you from point A to point B. That's
In the heat.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you have to build it to where it can sit at a red light a couple of times when you're cruising around and not get to 210, 220, 230, 250.
Yeah.
You know?
I think we all have really nice radiators.
Yeah.
It's like the
That's-
first thing I bought.
That's one thing you definitely have to have is a nice cooling system. Because if you don't, you're not going to survive out here, man. Your Josie's car did really good out here. I was surprised.
Oh, well,
You'll being from NorCal.
hey. Well, that one actually has I think it's a 73 Buick radiator. I went to Napa and just give me the biggest, copper cord, no plastic tanks radiator that you can, because that thing overheated like that for years. And that was probably the biggest improvement that we ever made on it. I mean, it went from being something that you could drive to work and like could maybe take out of town to being something you could, hop in and drive back from the Grand Canyon in.
Right. And I give you props for driving from Tucson or driving from NorCal to Tucson and then back to Phoenix
Yeah.
with the little amount of time you had. That was awesome. Thank
I
you.
also think you probably need to study up on your geography.
Hey. People do that commute though, right? Tucson to Phoenix?
Oh,
No.
yeah, all the time.
No, I don't
All the
know
time.
anybody. Not like regularly.
Yeah. I have like 2 drivers that live in Tucson
Yeah,
that work where I work.
that's crazy. Yeah, I got family down there, so it's always a stop when we're in the state, but it's way, way, way down there.
Yeah, it's a drive. We went to the hell is that place? Old Tucson. We went to a show in Old Tucson one year.
Yeah?
And we just I don't know. I saw something on the internet and I was like, hey, let's go check this out, yo. I was under the assumption it was gonna be in downtown Old Tucson, in the actual studios itself. But it wasn't. It was in the visitors parking lot.
Oh.
But you got to drive through it and take pictures. So it was all right. But we still had fun cruising down there, and we went to Wettos and had some Sonoran dogs, and we had a good time. But it was just about the drive going down there, and some of the pictures these guys took were awesome. If you guys ever seen them on Instagram, they're just bitching.
Yeah, you're like in the middle of the desert, just surrounded by
Dirt,
saguaro
cactuses.
cactuses and sand and hills.
Doing 80 miles an hour on the freeway in 100-degree heat that feels like 200.
A couple inches off the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had such a fun time driving through that state when we came out when we went to the show there, because when we left Phoenix and went up north to the Grand Canyon, we went up, I forget that freeway there, but the one that goes,
17?
it must have been, and there was still snow on the hills up there, and there's
Yeah.
oh man, there's nothing like it. Like northern Arizona is just amazing.
Right?
Yeah, like I would go there a couple of times a year, like down to Tucson when I was a kid, just because that's where we had family. But I never saw anything besides it. It was like drive straight through the state, get to Grandpa's house, hit EG's, and go home.
Right.
It's been really cool to get a chance to explore it a little bit more out there.
Speaking of EG's, there's one in Casa Grande now, so I don't have to go to Tucson all the time to get EG's.
Nice. So another guy down there by you guys is Alan. Do you want to tell me about what you guys did with this Pontiac?
Well, Alan had bought his Pontiac from a tattoo artist that's really, really, really well known. His name's Aaron Coleman. And it was a nice, I would say, street rod, maybe. I don't know. What would you call it, Billy?
It had torque thrust too, so
Yeah, but it was
and black walls.
It was a really nice car, and we're looking at it like, what can we do? What can we do? I'm like, well, there's a ton of shit we could do with this car. So he bought it, And the funny thing is, I hope nobody's listening, but both of us were out and out of work, and we bagged the car, and it took us like 6 months to bag the car because we were both injured.
Oh man!
And we'd like go over there for an hour, go to the shop for an hour, and put one screw in, and fuck it. And then we'd sit down and hang out for 5 hours and tell the old ladies that we worked all day and we didn't do shit but roll around on the ground.
Isn't that like Alan's MO, like currently though?
Yeah, that's
injured or non-injured.
Yeah, he just rolls around and gets dirty. So, we ended up finally getting it bagged after like 6 months of being through hell, and we decided to just totally change the whole complete look of the car after it had gotten keyed. Somebody had keyed it, and it had a brand new black paint job. It was beautiful the way it was. And somebody had keyed it, so he had gotten the insurance money. And I was like, well, you know what? For this, I'll fix it. Throw some more money at it. We'll do the roof. And I had the roof all taped out in like 3 panels. Nothing special, just 3 floating panels. And then I get on Instagram, and there's a guy painting a 66 Impala almost identical. Tell Alan, you know what? Just let me go to town on this and let me just do whatever. And it's going to sound crazy, but I want to do some crazy things to it. And he's like, all right, go for it. Just start doing whatever you want to do. And at that time, there was a magazine guy, Bill Garrett, who wanted to take pictures of me doing stuff. So I was like, hey, right now it's a perfect opportunity. You can actually come and see how long this stuff takes. So he comes out and he took a lot of pictures of me doing a lot of the graphics on Alan's roof, which he wants to use at a later date still to put in like a tech article, I guess, but I haven't gotten together with them to do anything with that or not.
Yeah, he does a Low View magazine, right?
Yes, correct. Glowview magazine.
Yeah, it was cool to finally meet him when I was out at the show.
Yeah, he's a great dude.
Definitely.
Great dude. Big supporter of the club too. Big supporter of our club. So he was like, man, I didn't realize how much time and tape and material you actually go through just for a little panel.
Oh yeah, that's.
You've done your cars.
Oh yeah, we backmasked Josie's panels. It was a lot of tape.
Right, and at 11, I don't know what it is out there in California, but here it's $11 a roll.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
So they're looking at me like I'm crazy because I have to do it backwards. So they're like, I don't know, man. I don't know. This isn't looking good. This isn't looking good. I'm like, I'm not even finished yet. I'm not finished yet. Wait till we put all the colors in. All the colors? How many more colors are you going to put? I'm like, well, I'm only going to use 3, but it's actually going to be like 6 because you're going to mix them with this color and that color and do this and do that. And they're like, okay. And you could just see the worriness in Alan's face, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And then when I was done, they're like, oh, my God, that's beautiful.
That's awesome. And it turned out great.
Thank you. But if it wasn't for that Instagram post, it would have just been a 3 floating panel like almost every other car out there. But that's all he wanted. He wanted something simple. He was like, I don't want nothing too flashy. I don't want nothing crazy. I just want a 3 panel. All right, cool, let's do it, But then when I seen that, I was like, you're going to look just like this guy. Let's go crazy. And I come to find out, we were at Santa Maria, and his car and Night Train were parked right next to each other. And I'm looking at, we're on the roof, or on the second story, I should say, and I'm looking at the roofs, and I was looking at Phil Leonard's paint job next to mine, and I'm like, oh my God. The panels are almost identical. I mean, they were so different, but just the body line, the way we taped them off were very, very similar. And I didn't even see that car when I did his car. I didn't even know about that because they broke out about the same time, I believe, if I remember right.
That's cool. I mean, it means you guys are thinking about the same things when you're looking at the body lines, That's really neat to see.
Right, yeah. And then I I was talking to Phil about that. I ran into him in a show in New Mexico, and he was with his family. So I only got to talk to him for a short amount of time, and he's a great dude, man. I like that guy. He's very humble, just awesome artist.
Yeah, he's a real nice guy.
I learned a lot just from watching him. When everybody says, "Oh, you know this," no, I still learn every day, and I see stuff he does, and I. Like, man, how do I do that? And then I gotta try to figure out how to do stuff that he's doing.
Yeah, he posted something the other day. He's playing around with depth. Like, he's got some stuff that are shadows and some stuff with like
the smoke looking stuff.
That is so cool. How does he do that?
I don't know.
It's awesome.
I don't know. Right? Yeah, he's just an amazing artist, man. And he's an amazing person, too. He's very, very nice. Very nice person.
Yeah. Who are some of the other painters that inspire you to when you got started?
There's Luis Miranda, who's a local painter around here, and OG Mondo. And they were big lowrider painters in Arizona. And the guy I had mentioned earlier who helped me on my car, his name's Bobby J. He actually had a bunch of cars in Lowrider magazine growing up. I looked at a lot of his stuff. And when I finally got to meet him, I was like, man, you were one of my idols growing up, and now you're in my shop helping me paint my car. How fucking awesome is this? And I looked at a lot of Watson and Winfield stuff too.
Yeah.
But my eyes were more to the lowrider style. Like, I loved how Watson and Winfield did his fades and Watson did his panels. Just unbelievable how they did it. But just the pizzazz of the lowrider flake and, the designs in them was just unreal to me. And it just made me go crazy for that stuff. And that's, I think, why I tend to lean more that way.
Yeah.
I still like the paneling, just straight paneling of a car. Done right, they look bitchin'. But a lot of guys go over the top and screw it up, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but just in my opinion.
Yeah, it's really hard to know when to stop when you're taping out a roof.
Right. And I try to be a lot different than other people. I try not to do, hey, let's try to do something different. Let's not just do the same old stuff. Let's try to break boundaries here. Let's do something new and unique. Mm-hmm. Well, everything we do is pretty much new and unique to people in Arizona. A lot of it's been done before, but not in our style. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I'm following you.
So, but these guys, for me, were the pioneers here in Arizona, and Bugs is another one that was also a big name for me growing up here in Arizona. Talk to him at car shows all the time, and another really, really nice dude that's humble, that just wants to paint cars and have fun. It's great being able to know these guys now, seeing them as I was growing up in magazines and stuff, and you're like, oh man, I'll never get to meet these guys. And you go to a couple shows and they start looking at your work and they're going, man, who did this? I did. Man, that's awesome. And you're getting a prop from that guy, and it's like, wow, that's awesome. I like that.
Yeah,
so
that's really cool.
That's what keeps me going.
Do you have anything coming up next that you want to talk about?
Actually, I'm gonna start building my 65 Impala pretty soon, and I have a 39 Chevy that I'm slowly trying to work on.
Yeah.
Having a regular job now and doing side work is a bit rough after this back surgery.
I can imagine.
And a 62 T-Bird.
Right. No?
Yeah, he's got to fit that in somewhere.
We'll see. Yeah. And a 63 Impala 4-door. Just throwing that out there, Nick.
Right on. So we're going to see you guys at Santa Maria this year, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We'll be there.
Awesome. And you guys are all driving out, right?
You bet.
Me and Billy are driving out. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody's got a trailer.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say any names, Alan.
Ouch. Right on, man. Really looking forward to seeing you guys there. I guess we're just about at the end of this. I'm hearing that cell phone thing again. Sorry. I think it's probably just something going through the house.
I think it was Freddie.
No, it's you. You're the one. You're closer.
I'm doing a fantasy baseball draft at the same time.
Maybe that's what I'm hearing.
Don't judge me. I know it's not car related.
That's crazy how you could hear that.
Yeah, does that like bzz, 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 bzz.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's like a very specific sound. If you've heard it once, it's like a
Yeah, that was a pretty good little impersonation there.
Yeah, that's one of the things I do.
You're a man of many talents.
Right on. What was that, number 3?
That was, yeah. I think that was beer number 3.
All right. I guess that's probably the right place to end this then. Man, thank you guys so much for sticking it out and making this work and giving me the time to talk. Thank you.
I wish my color commentary was better, dude. I really feel like I let you guys down with my jokes.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot.
You want to go back and do that? What's it? That ADR, the advanced dialogue replacement, like they do on movies. Have you seen that?
No, I don't. I'm not familiar with the term, but I guess you just mean like.
I'm a big film
overdubbing?
geek. Yeah, they go back and they overdub and they like remove the mouth so it looks the same.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, well,
We
we
could
don't
do
have
that.
to do that because it's just audio. But yeah,
Yeah, it'll be a lot easier.
I think you did great, Billy.
thank you, Freddie. I was there for you. I'm your roadie.
That's right. Go get me a beer, bitch.
All right, Nicholas.
All right, thank you.
Right on, man. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
No
Thank
problem,
you
dude.
again.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. Fuck Frank.
Well, all right, there you have it. Episode 15 is in the can. Thank you so much, Freddie and Billy, for being a part of that. Man, what an absolute nightmare it was to get that audio working. This is my first time using separate microphones, my first time using Skype, and my first time doing something where I'm not actually in the same room with the person that I'm interviewing. So I am amazed that I came out with anything at all, but I'm sorry for getting it out there late. So, man, you guys out there, Travis over at Chrome Pipes and Pinstripes, and the guys over at Writers on the Norm, some of the call-in podcasts that I listen to regularly, man, you guys are my heroes. You made this sound so easy. It's not. Thanks for putting all the work into your episodes. So that's it for now. It's been a tough month. Sorry this thing's coming out a little bit late, but things are looking up, and I'm really glad to have this podcast and this corner of the internet carved out to do creative shit in. I did notice when listening back to this episode that there's a few times that we're making jokes about something that we never really talk about. When you hear us make jokes about like carne asada and Modelo's and like use some stereotypical words that people would commonly associate with lowrider culture, what we're joking about is some guy came onto one of our car club's social media outlets and said some like really not cool stuff about our cars, our culture, what their impression of lowriding was. And so we've been sort of joking about that as a club for the past couple of days, just because there's no reason to be a jerk, and out of context, it seems really silly to pick on people for having fun because you don't understand their part of car culture. So my advice, if you're a listener and you're a curious person, if you find yourself on YouTube and you're finding some videos of car stuff that you don't get, Lord knows I've been there before, either keep looking, do some research, or just find another spot on the internet, because there's just no reason to be a jerk like that. So there it is. I guess if you didn't hear that beforehand, you might think that we're making light of lowrider culture, which I assure you, in no way are we doing that whatsoever. We are making fun of someone who's making fun of it. So, all right, there it is. A joke explained is now completely dead, and I'll leave you with that. So thanks for listening. I'll see you guys at Santa Maria, and I should be having another episode of the show coming to you guys pretty soon. I have a couple exciting guests lined up, so stay tuned.